We currently have a crazy deal going on over at poodlecfb.com. If you use code BACKTOSCHOOL, all lowercase with the number 2 in the middle, you get 50% off the annual plan. And if you use code BACKTOSCHOOL2025, again, all lowercase with the number 2, you get 40% off the monthly plan. That is the best deal we've ever ran over there. Make sure to take advantage. This is a locked-in grandfather deal, so if you lock yourself into this deal, you have it for the lifetime of your membership. So come check it out, sign up, don't miss out on the best deal we've ever ran. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Poodle back with another CFB 26 video, and today's video, we're going to go over the top 5 abilities you need in Dynasty mode. Now, guys, before we get into the video, if you haven't already, we are cooking over on poodlecfb.com. We've made it past the point in the year now that we're pushing November where we basically discovered everything that could be discovered on the surface level, and we've reached like the advanced metrics portion of the season. Last year, obviously, poodlecfb.com started a bit later, so we'd gotten to that point around like March. This year, we got it by April. We're getting position change stat losses, thresholds, how to archetype change, very below the surface, very metric based stats, thousands of lines of spreadsheets, position change guide, position change do's and don'ts, pros and cons. We have everything you could ever think of, that anything you could think of that you would need for Dynasty is over on poodlecfb.com. And of course, you get access to the Discord, which is super elite for anyone who's a part of it, and you know that. Come check it out, guys. If you use code half off, all lowercase, no spaces, half off, one word, you get half off any plan over on the site, which is the best thing we've ever ran, and it's grandfathered in. So keep signing up, keep locking in annual or monthly, your choice. Come check it out, guys. And if you haven't already, Chalkboard has changed their sign-up bonus. It is now going to be a $100 deposit match. If you put in $10, you get $10 back. Put in 20, you get 20 match. If you put in 100, you get 100 match. So quite literally, your sign-up is based on what you put in. So go check it out, code PoodleCFB all together, or the link in the description, or down below in the pinned comment. Go check it out, guys. The best place to play daily fantasy. But let's get into it. All right, guys, so let's head over to coach abilities, and let's start with the honorable mention. So it's a list of 5, but we're going to technically do 7 and 6 first. So let's start here with our first honorable mention, and this is across the entire board. This isn't based on how to build your coach or what tree to follow. This is strictly based on a specific package at a specific tier. So the first one at 7, which is an honorable mention, is going to be lasting impression. Lasting impression, one of the best abilities last year. A lot of people question it this year, also because of the route to get it. Last year it was in Elite Recruiter. This year it is in CEO. So this does change a bit when it comes to like how you view it. Last year, I believe it was tier 4. So it was kind of like, oh yeah, you could just get it. That was awesome. It was in Elite Recruiter. However, I think with the right setup, if you can unlock CEO, it is one of the best abilities. It would probably be like in the top 3. If we had more stats with people using it, as well as we had it in Recruiter or Elite Recruiter. I think it being in CEO definitely is kind of watered down the effect for quite a few abilities this year, which is honestly part of the reason some things aren't talked about as much. But let's get to our first honorable mention. I guess this would be the second. Let's get to our first on this list, which is going to be Master Motivator. And you guys probably know which one I'm referring to here. And it's going to be tier 3, Everybody Eats. So now this is where this list is interesting, because Everybody Eats is one of the best abilities in the game. The problem is it's not one of the most efficient abilities in the game. And when I say that, it's when referring to your coaching tree and how you plan to build it. There's certain abilities that we all love. Like for instance, last year we liked Dream School, this year we like Dream School, but it's one of the abilities that while it's really good, the points required to get there hinders your overall build. So if tier 3 was tier 1 for Master Motivator, I think people would, this would probably be a top 3 ability. If this was tier 4 in Motivator, it would be like the number 1 ability. Because you always want to get to like tier 3 when doing one of the motivator builds, so you already have to waste it. This just becomes such a wasteful build because tier 1 and 2 you don't care for, so you have to go all the way to tier 3. So that's 24 points just because you want to have one 8-point upgrade. That's the first problem. Then to get to Master Motivator, you got to purchase Master Motivator, and you got to spend 36 more points to get a 12-point upgrade, because you have to do 12 and 12 to get to tier 3. You just waste so much points. So think about it this way: 24, and then you figure you times that by even like 5, you're already at 120 wasted points. And if you go to the 6, you're at 144 points, and then whatever you waste up here as well, you end up wasting close to 200 points just to get this motivator build set up, which is crazy. That's a lot of your points, especially when you have to still get talent developer and other things. So now to the next one of my favorite abilities in the game, and as we get down the list, you'll notice some of them do get more efficient in terms of getting them, and that's going to be Strategist tier 3. Lower the bar. D linemen have a lower deal breaker threshold, or in general, whatever position you're at, quarterbacks, running backs, have a lower deal breaker threshold. In CFB 26, there was a big shift in making deal breakers even more important and kind of more volatile. And you'll notice one of the biggest things from either end of the spectrum is if you're a small school trying to build up, you're going to see your players growing and you're going to start losing players, or you're going to notice when recruiting players, you're not going to meet their deal breakers. It's going to be very hard to retain, which makes it very hard to grow. Now, if you're a big school and you have a bad season or 2 bad seasons and you start to back up, you'll notice some of your top tier recruits, suddenly their deal breakers went up, your deal breaker went backwards, you're losing them. Lower the bar does 2 great things. Helps for player retention and player recruiting. It helps on recruiting because think about this. If you had a C proximity to home and a player required a B+, and you had lower the bar, their B+ would go down to a C or C-. So if you have it stacked, of course. So that's very important for first getting recruits that you wouldn't have access to, but it also helps a lot with like minuscule things, like a top quarterback in the country that would be very interested in you having an A pro potential and you having a B+. That would get it to a B+. Now you can get your player. You guys know more than I probably could even tell you, right? You play this every day just as much. If you go into the transfer portal, you know how annoying it is when you see a player that you didn't gain access to because you just missed on a deal breaker grade, or even worse, in season, like week 3, about to bring in a 5-star and you lose a game, your championship contender drops and you miss out on the player. Lower the bar, tier 3. I love Strategist this year because of first tier 1 and 2 were very important with how big visits are this year. So that's me personally. I think that's going to be ability number 5 here. Let's get you number 4, and that's going to be under elite recruiter. Let's go to down here. Always recruit, and I'm gonna drop my webcam for a second. Always recruiting, increase weekly hours for a player. Now this one's going to be 12 points. Obviously, you have to go all the way on this, but the entirety of Elite Recruiter, all 4 tiers are very, very good. So it's not an inefficient path like Master Motivator. And last year, this was tier 4. So the reason this one isn't 1 or 2 is really because last year this was tier 4 in regular recruiting, and it was the best ability in the game. Very frustrating that they moved it there for a while. That's how we were feeling, but it makes sense. There's certain things in this game, like Everybody Eats a Master Motivator, CEO, Lasting Impression, Elite Recruiter. These things are really hard to get and really far apart points wise, and like if you go all in on Elite Recruiter, you probably can't go all in on this or that. So they are trying to make it more specialized versus last year. You could just get to tier 4 regular recruiter and just stop there if you wanted to, get tier 1 on elite, and then back out of it, be an elite recruiter, but still be an elite developer. So I see what they were doing, but what it led to for a lot of people was like who play, especially if you play in a small dynasty that only goes like 5 or 6 seasons, you might not unlock elite recruiter until like year 5 or 6. At that point, it's not worth it. That's really the biggest thing, is how long the unlock requirements take. I don't mind the points being harder. Like if you go all in elite recruiter, you can't build that cool build you want because it requires you to go regular recruiter and then requires you to go all to tier 4 and elite, which costs you a ton of points. But the problem is it also takes a long time to get, and you may never even get it. So that's my problem with it. Let's go to our third one, which is going to be under program builder, and let's go through them here. You guys probably know which one I'm going to if you've been playing the game long enough. So this was going to be Inside Track tier 3 friends and family discount, kind of similar to the CEO package with the coaching abilities, but this one's very useful because last year the reason abilities like this were a bit tougher was because you kind of had to utilize a coordinator in an offline build and then bring them up using the head coach's abilities. This year you can kind of do it yourself because there's so many more points. Last year we capped it around 500. This year we capped closer to 1,000 or even more if you use the pre-order bonus. So there's more points for you to make up margin, because last year, let's say it cost you, let's just use some rough figures here, it cost you 300 points, 400 points to build your coach to a point of unlocking this ability. Now you only had 100 points left, and even if you were going to save like 4 points or 5 points here and there, if you did it, you were breaking even, so there was really no point, or you were losing if you didn't do it right. Like unlocking friends and family discount at level 45 coach last year, you had 5 levels left to go, you weren't going to save enough in your last 5 levels to make it worth it. This year, if you get this early enough, or you speedrun program builder, save some of your points and get there, you do have the ability to actually save 20, 40, 30, like whatever you want, depending on what your coordinators are or whatever you have on the team, and you could actually save yourself 100 plus points. And if you can do that, now you're cooking with an even better build. But of course, you have to kind of speed run it and get it early. If you do get it later in your build, you do greatly hinder the ceiling of what you can do with it. Next, one of my favorite abilities in the game, and this one could have been reflipped earlier or later. It's kind of interchangeable in Strategist. Dropped my webcam again. Tier 4 Mind Reader. I love Mind Reader this year because with the emphasis on player development, it really has changed how I approach certain things. First off, dev traits are way more important this year. Last year, dev traits were kind of just like fun to have. They had high skill caps, but you never had a guaranteed growth path. That was the problem. I had elite quarterbacks who never grew as much as like a star dev guy or an impact guy. I have elite dev players who never got the right stats or abilities, and they were never useful. I had elite dev guys who were stuck at 84 overall. This year, if you have an elite dev guy, they grow at an elite pace. Star pace. Normal pace. Especially with manual progression and having those extra points, it is so invaluable. So Mind Reader, you guys have been here long enough, you probably know. You can utilize Mind Reader, and it's an efficient path because we like tier 1, 2, and 3. you can utilize Mind Reader to actually see the devs of players right at the first scouting attempt of 10 points, and then you could kind of use that as a recruiting strategy to strictly bring in elite and star dev players and kind of avoid normal impact, which that combined with talent developer combined with manual progression leads to this like factory of insane growth all around the board, and just constantly having a factory of players, getting them drafted, hitting high overalls, building up your program grade. It kind of it's exponential, and Mind Reader has been so awesome for that. But keep in mind, you want to be very careful when using Mind Reader because it's only on the first scout, so don't waste more points than doing so. You also want to be careful with people can kind of poach your players. If they know that you're a Mind Reader guy, I wouldn't really talk about it in your league. If they know you're a Mind Reader guy and you start to like put offers in on that like obscure 3-star or that 4-star that went unrecruited, people are going to know that they're likely a high dev, or if you're not on their board, they'll know they aren't. If you're avoiding a 5-star, they know that they're a bad dev, so on and so forth. So just be careful. You may want to do things a little bit under the table and not really talk about your coach build. And last, and certainly not least, is the best building in the game that did seem to take a slight nerf, but it's still the best building in the game. Tier 1 pay it forward and talent developer. Last year this was tier 1 and motivator, which was kind of awesome because that made motivator better. Like tier 1 and 3 were useful. Now it's just tier 3, which is kind of annoying. Tier 1 pay it forward, bonus XP for quarterbacks when quarterbacks are drafted. I'm going to take you off this screen for a second to show this. This is what I refer to as the dev factory. You guys probably heard me say that before. Now what a dev factory is once you get one of your top positions at any position group to the draft, all the guys below them get a big boost, which essentially speeds up their process of the draft. So for instance, let me show you an example of a factory that needs to begin. Right now we have Keelan Russell at an 82. He's only an 82, and it's gonna take him like a season or two to get his overall. That's fine. You don't have a factory there yet, but if you can get him to a 90 plus overall and get him drafted in the first round, let's say 93 overall plus, you get him drafted in the first round, then when you bring in a freshman quarterback behind him, they'll get a huge boost in their freshman sophomore year and go right up to an 85. Then in their sophomore year, they're 90 plus, you get them drafted, and then you start that factory of a recurring boost. It's kind of like it's like a big loop until you lose the factory. So you want to avoid not getting players drafted. That ability is so OP because that's the ability that allows you to go into an offseason, and we were seeing 150 to 250 points of skill points, especially if you get them in the first round. I've seen a guy who had 3 wide receivers go in the first round, and their wide receiver room went up to like 95 to 99 overall across the board, freshmen, sophomores. That's very helpful with manual because you have so many points to play with, and you can avoid the nonsense and go strictly for what you want. But you have to start the factory. And then there will be instances where you lose a factory. For example, let's say Ryan Williams gets drafted and Horton goes up to a 95 overall. Well, let's actually say Adams goes up to a 94 overall, 92 overall, 88 overall, whatever. Then he's going to be responsible for continuing the factory. Now, let's say you lose his deal breaker or you don't hit it and he transfers out. And now you have all these freshman wide receiver, sophomore, 77, 75, let's call them 68. They were relying on that boost. So now you've reset the factory, and now you got to wait another 2-3 years to get these guys drafted to restart the cycle. If you have the draft cycle going and the factory going, you could really get to 90 overall receivers like every other year. Flip, flop, flip, flop, flip, flop. Or every year, depending on how you labeled it, with like having a senior, sophomore, freshman, junior, all in line. If not, it becomes more annoying. You kind of start that 2-3 year window again of having to build up the factory and then keep it rolling. That's that ability. We utilized it a lot last year, and it's even more dangerous this year with the implementation of much better player progression, making devs better. But guys, that's about it for the video. Hope you enjoyed. I hope this top 5 plus the honorable mentions of 2 helped you guys a lot. This order is mostly what I would follow. So again, take it with a grain of salt though. If you are building a certain build and you're like, I'm not going the motivator route, don't just mindlessly go for tier 3 if that's not in your build. Follow everything else. Make sure you relay this to kind of what you're doing. That's about it, guys. Don't forget, poodlecfb.com, code half off. All one word, all lowercase, gets you 50% off any plan. Grandfathered in for life. So as long as you choose to be a member, you're going to be getting that incredible rate. Go check it out. Our CFB guide constantly being updated. Our position changes, our below the surface advanced metrics. There's so much going on in the Discord. It can almost be overwhelming at times, but it's so simplified that it makes sense. Go check it out, guys. And of course, Chalkboard, change the deposit. If you use code PoodleCFB or the link down below in the pinned comment or in the description, you do get your deposit matched up to $100. Go check it out, guys. Best place to play fantasy sports. I'm out. Peace.